Hey, thanks for checking out our video today. We're going to be looking at manual sales order entry today. Hopefully you have an icon on your desktop for our SmartPage application. If you don't, and you don't have credentials, you're going to probably want to contact your coach and get set up for using the IQMS system. I'm going to launch IQ here a second. This is where you're going to put in your username and password, and that first one is going to be your Windows username and password, and then you're going to see it pop up here and prompt you for the IQMS username and password, and that's actually going to be first initial last name and then whatever you've set up for your IQMS login as the password. So now we're going to open up SmartPage. You'll see it come up like this. You will be seeing a launcher bar here as the potential icon. That's one way to get in. And what we're going to see is if I click on launcher bar and launch that, the sales and distribution tab here is one of the options. We can click on sales orders, and that will get us to the exact same way, the exact same area that I'm going to. I'm going to launch it from SmartPage. So I click on the sales and distribution tab here and click sales orders, the icon. So once I've clicked on that, it's going to open up a screen for me. We can search for an existing PO here in this bar up top, and we can search by a group of fields here or a number of different fields. Because we're entering a new order today, I'm going to click on the new button down below here. That's going to bring up another prompt. That prompt is actually asking me what customer I want to use to sell to today. So because I already typed Hayworth in the box up here, I can choose Hayworth in my pick list, and I will just hit select, and that will give me the customer on a new sales order. You can see that there's a ship to field here. That's the first thing we're going to select. So if we click on the ship to field, you'll find that there's a great number of ship tos that we can choose. For this exercise, I'm just going to use the default. The next field that we need to look at is FOB. I don't necessarily care which one I choose for our example, so I'm going to choose third party. The next field we move to is the PO number. This is going to be customer supplied. For our example, I'm just going to use test. I'm going to click the post edit button up here. This is what you use whenever you make any changes to the PO. You're going to use this button. Once I click that, it will turn gray, and because I've already done this test previous to this, it's asking me if I want to reuse that PO number, and I'm just going to say yes. So you can see that the check mark is grayed out, and we can move on to the next step in our process. What that's actually going to be is to add inventory items to our PO. What you're going to want to make sure first of all is that add or edit from inventory is the blued out box. There's a couple other options here, but we want to add or edit from inventory because that will drive everything through correctly through the system. I'm going to move over all the way to the right over here, and we'll see a green plus sign. Once I click on that, it's going to pop up another dialog. That dialog is going to give me the option to add an inventory item. I'm just going to choose the third item here for our example. Once I hit enter, that item will be added to this sales order. You can see it has the item number, aka item number, and item description as 3 fields here. You can also see the price might be on here, and there's other data further over. The only fields we care about are in this main section here. So the first thing you're going to see is blanket quantity. I'm going to put a quantity of 100 for our test. Once I've done that, I can hit the check mark in this section, and that will save to this middle section here. What you'll see that that does is it adds a quantity to that field, and then we also have our price here, and if we move over to the total price field, it's actually done multiplication for us to figure out what our total price is for that PO line, or sales order line. The next step is to actually create a release. A release will be the due date and quantity that are needed by the customer for each day. So for this example, we're just going to drag this quantity. You can see I clicked on the blanket quantity, clicked and held it, and drug it down to the release section. This bottom section is called the release section. The middle section is going to be our order detail section, and the top section is the PO or sales order section. There's a distinction there. It should be called the sales order section because we do also have a PO section in another piece of the software. So once we've dragged that down, we will see that it's created a release for 100 pieces due on 2/6. It's always going to create it for today's date. We will have to go in and update this date to our requested promise date. Both of these fields will need to be updated. You can either type in, as you saw I did, or you can click on the field and choose it on the calendar. So what you'll see is both of those dates are what we want, the quantity is where we want it to be, and the next step will be to click the Post Edit button again to make that change. And you can see some of the fields populate, and that we have now created a release for 100 pieces due on 3/1 for this particular part number. This will show up if we go run the full report, and will drive our production requirements. The next thing I'm going to show you is actually adding a second line item to this PO, sales order. So then what we will do to accomplish that, is click our green plus sign in the middle section called Insert Record, and it's going to pop up a dialog and ask us what item number we'd like to add. For our example here, I'm just going to choose 1596-6301. Once I hit enter, it's going to add that item to our sales order. For this example, I'm actually going to do 1,000 pieces. And once I click Post Edit, it's going to reflect that on our sales order. And you can see it's actually calculated out the total price based on 1,000 pieces at the calculated price. And the next thing you're going to notice is that the grand total has been updated to reflect both of these total prices combined. The next step, and the next thing you'll see, is that there are no releases in this bottom section again. However, if I click on line item 1, you'll see those releases are still available and being used. I'm going to move back to line item 2, and I can take that 1,000 quantity, drag that down to our release section, and it's going to create a release for 1,000 pieces for 2/6, which is today's date. What I actually want to do is I want to sell 500 pieces in 2 different releases. So I'll update my quantity to 500 pieces. I'm going to update my due date to 3/1 as an example, and click my checkmark Post Edit button. Now you'll see that I'm selling 500 of the 1,000 pieces that they've allotted. I also need a release created for another date. I'll click this green plus sign in this bottom section to add another release line. You'll see that that populates up. I'm going to choose 500 pieces in our quantity field over here, and then I'm going to click over to the date field. It's going to give me a prompt if this date is not far enough out. But for this example, I'm going to choose April 1. It's going to populate over to my other field, and I can hit the check mark. Now you can see that I have 1,000 pieces due in the cumulative quantity to cover my 1,000 pieces for this particular item, with 2 separate releases, 500 due on March 1 and 500 due on April 1. The next thing you'll see is if you click back to line item 1, it's still reflecting the 100 for that line. So these are totally independent, and both will show up individually on our full report, driving demand and production requirements. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please let us know.